Councillor Brooke O'Donnell, who has some questions for our directors in relation to item 10.1.3. Then I'll open it up to some further public questions. I believe there are members of the gallery who have further questions on this item. I'll go to Councillor Dylan O'Connor for a final question, and then we'll move on to 10.2.1 if there's no further questions from Council. Over to you, Councillor O'Donnell.
Thank you. Yeah, my question's in reference to the Ewell Brook. Obviously, that I was a bit concerned that obviously that is a significant Aboriginal registered site, and I'm just wondering what due diligence does the city take apart from asking for feedback from external parties? What internal processes do we have to reassure ourselves that we are actually getting the right feedback?
Director of Development Services.
Through the Chair, thank you for your question, Councillor O'Donnell. The city has a geographical information system database that identifies sites of significance that require further information to be sought. We also rely on information provided by state government agencies, and they're our primary sources of information. Unless there is another trigger for further investigations, the city primarily relies on the existing state databases in our geographical information system and any information that comes through referrals from state government agencies.
Follow-up question, Councillor O'Donnell.
Sorry, so I guess my question is, did we or do we know if our stakeholders actually had discussions with Southwest Aboriginal Land and Sea Council about access to that waterway and the revegetation of that area, given that obviously it's not to be done yet? I'm just wondering, because they would provide their feedback and I'd imagine that they would have something to say.
Through the Chair, it is my understanding that there wasn't a direct referral to the Southwest Sea Council. There was a referral to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage. There was a referral to the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation that provided no objection to the proposal and were aware of the proposed development adjacent to the Ewell Brook and the manner in which it was drained away from Ewell Brook and the proposed revegetation to the existing heavily modified watercourse.
Okay, members of the public, are there any further questions in relation to item 10.1.3? Yes, sir, if you'd like to come up and state your name and your suburb only, please.
Good evening, councillors, and through the Chair and members of the public. I appreciate this opportunity to unfortunately have to say something.
Sorry, sir, if you could just state your name and your suburb.
Harry Mazza, 811, and I'll give my address for a very good reason. 811 Welshpool Road East in Wattle Grove. Okay. I had no intention this evening of posing a question, but the course of events that have evolved over the evening, particularly in relation to the traffic movement and the proposed use of that land. We all know and understand what a garden centre implies. It does not imply a recycling dump. It does not, and this has been stated by the proponents, that there will be recycling material on the site. That is just one thing. I leave that briefly hanging in the air. The other thing that has drawn my attention this evening is the truck movements in and out of that site. Now, the reason that I gave my address is because I live in proximity to the Lewis Road, Welshpool Road East intersection. It has already been mentioned this evening that this intersection is under consideration for black spot finance. Now, do I have to tell councillors how many accidents appear on that site? I live approximately 115 metres from the intersection. Are councillors aware of the intersection crashes? Anyone who's not, please say so and I'll illuminate you further. I can only understand and perceive that with the entrance to this proposed so-called garden centre is going to further impact the traffic incidences of minor and ultimately major accidents on that road. As I've said, I had no intention of speaking this evening, but I just could not resist the temptation to illuminate a few facts regarding the traffic movement. It's a pity that the gentlemen here on my right have vacated the scene. I was hoping that they could illuminate me further or possibly inform me of some of the facts. My question is, are they aware of the total number of movements in and out of that site per week? Judging by the information I have, where it's 35 trucks in and out a day, that's 70 movements. Staff, 20 movements, and I've reservedly estimated possibly 10 customers a day. That relates to 20 movements. In all, that's 700 movements a week across that intersection. I was also going to ask if any of the gentlemen had actually driven a fully loaded 19-metre truck capable of carrying anywhere between 15, 20 and 25 tonnes. Now, one of the councillors, and I had made a note during the course of this discussion by the gentleman, on the back of my files, and the note read, "Is driveway wide enough to accommodate both entry and access simultaneously?" That question was asked by a councillor. Very astute question. The same councillor also mentioned the fact that if a truck was travelling east and indicating to turn left, and another truck was behind that, and a truck was wishing to exit the site, we were given the assurance by the representative of this project that the line of sight would not be impaired. Now, does anyone here have any reality bite on that? Can anyone comment or say to me this evening or to the people gathered here that the line of sight would not be impeded? Anyone? I'm sorry that
Well, you
this is
probably won't do hypotheticals if they're...
Okay, that's
yeah.
not a hypothetical.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
That's
yeah.
a fact.
But this illusion, there's been a couple of reference of the stupidity of council
No,
and I think
no.
that we if we could really
No,
stick
no,
to
you
the
can't.
issue, yeah.
You can't.
If
You
we could stick
can't.
to the issue.
That is the issue. Okay, that is the issue. Now, these trucks are capable of carrying, if you've got 35 trucks coming in at 10 tonnes, that's 350 tonnes. They'll carry more. They'll carry twice that. That's 700 tonnes. Where is that going to go on the site? Nowhere on these plans has an elevation been drawn of the storage sites. Nowhere. So where is that going to be stored? In piles? In constructed concrete bins? Do you know how much it takes to move 700 tonnes?
So I'm going to take that you are asking a question at this point.
I'm asking the question is,
Yep.
where is the material
Yep.
going to be stored?
And I'm going to refer that as the
Thank
chair.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
To the Director of Development Services.
Through the chair, the city will take that question on notice.
Thank you, thank you.
Do you have any further questions?
Yes, I do. There's been some mention made of the recycled water and the containment of water on site through the erection of swales. Do we have a guarantee that all the water is going to end up in the remediation site as allocated and indicated on the plan? Is that a guarantee? I'd also like to
Sorry,
ask...
no, I'm going to refer that.
Oh,
No, you've
sorry.
asked a question, so I'm going to refer
that is
that
a
to
question,
the,
yes.
to
Through the chair, the city will
Services.
take the question on notice.
Thank you. The other one is, that pit, how deep is it?
Through the chair, the city will take the question on notice.
and no one knows. Is it lined?
Through the chair, the city would also take that question on notice.
Now you can see why I was prompted to ask questions this evening. I had no intention. The other one I would like to mention is, and this is a little bit cryptic. I note that the proponent is to remediate some trees that were removed. Why? Not why did he remove them, why does he have to put them back?
I'll refer that final question to the Director of Development Services.
Excuse me, don't infer that it was my final question.
No, we're at time now, sir, so
Oh,
if there
look,
are
come
further
on.
questions.
You gave the guys, the lawyers and that all the time they wanted.
That was for the assistance of the public to understand, to debrief them.
This is not? This is not?
Yeah, if
You're determining what I'm asking is not for the interest of the public.
How many more questions do you have
I
there,
have
sir?
one.
One more? Excellent.
One
So
more.
I'll get the Director to answer the last
thank you.
question and we'll move
Thank
on to
you.
your last question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair, I'd need clarification of the question and to where that's cited.
Sorry, say that again?
I will require clarification of the question and where you've cited that information from.
Information to what? In what?
The question was in relation to the replanting and why the replanting was required, I
Yes,
believe.
yes. I know why the replanting was requested, because he neglectfully, in the words of the gentleman here who's gone, he neglectfully moved and removed that vegetation next to Yule Brook. Now, he indicated to the council that the removal of the foliage along the access roads and the edge of the bird would be negligent. Yet when it pleases the proponent, he removes foliage or trees on his property. That's the point I'm making. Okay?
And just your final question, please, sir.
Sorry, just one moment. It should be obvious that I didn't have a chance to collate a presentation that would have followed from one thing to the other. Oh yes, even though this application is for the front half of the property, are we to understand that these rules and regulations apply to the 3.91 hectare site or just to the site as indicated in the planning?
Through the chair, the conditions of approval relate to the subject property, and in relation to your previous question about the removal of vegetation, I do note, for the benefit of the community and council, community president and council, the past, present and future compliance related issues in relation to this property are not relevant considerations in the determination of a planning application. The information before you and for the purposes of the development application and the conditions that are there within are to be assessed and considered. As I stated, past, present and future compliance related issues are not a relevant consideration in considering a development application.
When do they become relevant?
Through the chair, they become relevant at the time that a offence is committed and the city investigates and chooses to pursue or otherwise that possible offence.
So the city has seen fit to remediate the site?
So I think...
I can see where you're going with this, but you
we're
can
not-
see
yeah.
you can see the
We're not in
reason-
debate though, sir. We're not in debate.
No, I follow that. I do apologise for going into debate, but you can see the frustration that this leads me to, and other people in the room, and certain councillors.
Thank you.
I won't mention other things that have already been mentioned by other councillors, but I think the trivial nature of the answer indicates to me that the council are not fully aware of how important that site is, not only to the environment, but to the people who are the First Nations people here. And I really think you need to look into that, because that is of serious intent. And I thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your questions. Were there... you can ask a final question, as long as it's not a statement and it's a question.
James Miller, Wattle Grove. Is council aware that it is the only council that currently classifies this proponent as a garden centre. All other councils in which the proponent operates, such as the City of Rockingham and Canning, classify his operations, which are identical, which have identical product list, as industrial